All right. Well, hello and welcome to our third and final webinar in the OK What Now series. My name is Jessica. I'm the Director of Marketing here at iVet360. I also have another Jessica here with me behind the scenes. She'll be answering any questions that you have throughout the presentation. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and then I'll also take some questions at the end if time allows. So I know we're all very much tired of the pandemic, but we're also still very much in the middle of it. So let's talk about that. At the start of all this, we launched a webinar series that was all about how to respond to what was happening back then, how to talk to your clients about what was happening, how to handle COVID concerns with employees, and how to get thinking about what kinds of impact the pandemic would have on the industry going forward. And most of our predictions were correct. In the marketing space, we saw a massive shift toward leveraging accessibility tools like reminder platforms and online pharmacies. And we also saw a change in focus that we've never seen before. Practices all of a sudden were struggling to accommodate the demands coming from new clients. So we found ourselves triaging constantly and kind of trying to strike that balance between supporting new clients, the people in our communities that had nowhere to take their pets, and existing clients, the people who had been loyal long-term customers. And it's hard. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's happening right now. The problem is that we've got this mounting demand for veterinary care. We've got the issues of widespread staffing shortages that we know is affecting hospitals across the industry. And these problems are exacerbated by the fact that we're still doing the same song and dance around ever-changing COVID protocols and continued social distancing efforts. I've had multiple practices contact me in the last week over the fact that mask mandates are changing again, and they're reopening their building and changing their mask requirements and all that. So what's the result of all of that? The result is generally the same sentiment across all the hospitals that we work with. There's a lack of capacity for new client growth. There's no way to realistically accommodate every single person trying to get care at your hospital. I mean, for a lot of hospitals, there's not even a way to realistically answer every phone call coming through because demand is that high. And then between this insane level of demand and the staffing shortages that you're all experiencing, there's a lack of appointment availability overall. So ultimately, all of these things combined lead to perceived limitations on growth. So we react by saying, I should probably stop running ads, maybe put a hold on new clients and stop running incentives and promotions, right? I mean, the initial thought there is that you want to pump the brakes on any and all marketing because your staff is overwhelmed, they're burnt out, and there really isn't enough time in the day to accommodate the level of demand your hospital is seeing. But is that really the right response? And I get it, I'm a marketing professional, so this may not come as a surprise to you, but I'm going to suggest that perhaps it's not. Perhaps instead, when you're faced with the limited opportunity for growth, you should shift your focus to the part of your business that can help you the most at this time. And in this case, your primary focus should be retention. So in today's webinar, I'm here to talk to you a bit about how you can shift your focus from new client acquisition to active client retention and what can happen for your practice when you do. I also know how desperately you need new hires, so we're going to talk about that too. I'm going to be sharing how you can leverage retention best practices to keep your clients active and engaged, and how you can lean on your active clients to increase revenue and transaction value. I also want you to shift your mindset on new client acquisition. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I'll leave you with this. Can you tap on the brakes? Sure, but I caution you not to screech to a halt in that department. Advertising for new clients is something that requires momentum, right? We all know that saying, an object in motion stays in motion, and that's how new client acquisition works too. So if you stop all of your efforts entirely, then it's going to be that much harder to get things in motion again when you're ready for new clients. So it's much healthier for your practice in the long run to be doing the bare minimum, keeping ads running, but just to keep some skin in the game. And then, eventually you pick things back up again, than to not be doing anything at all and then trying to start over from scratch when the time comes. And then lastly, we want to make it easy for new hires to find and fall in love with you. So before we dive into some information on retention best practices and marketing to your existing clients, let's start with defining what exactly retention is to us. Here at iVet 360, when we talk about retention, what we're really talking about is your active clients that have stuck around for a while. So these are the people that your practice has retained since they first found you. Generally speaking, what we want to see for our practices is a high retention rate and a low rate of attrition or turnover. You want your clients to find you and stay with you. You don't want them to be coming in for one urgent care visit and then never coming back again. So to put it really simply, retention is the act of keeping the new clients that you attract, and your retention efforts are the actions you take to get them to stick around. And the reason that retention is so critical, especially right now, is because your active clients are a bird in the hand. These are your warm leads. They're the people that you've already taught to know you, like you, and to trust you. So if your hospital is at capacity and you're feeling like you aren't able to accommodate new clients, your active clients are going to be your primary source of revenue. And in order for that revenue to continue growing, you need to then have retention efforts in place to grow your list of active clients and leverage their engagement to the fullest. And just to be clear, for today's purposes, at iVet 360, we define an active client as someone who has visited the hospital within the last 18 to 24 months. That timeline can be a little bit flexible depending on each hospital's rate of attrition. And then that same person has had at least one doctor visit. Ideally, though, they've had more than one, maybe even several. And this is a person that has already demonstrated that they have engagement, loyalty to you, and a high likelihood to return if you keep them focused and engaged. That's the key part here. So how do we do that? Well, about a year and a half ago, when we first identified this shift in focus toward retention rather than acquisition, we decided to take a look at what factors led to the greatest level of success when it comes to retention and active client engagement. So we kind of took inventory of the practices we work with that were excelling in that area and isolated the common elements that they shared. And these are the things, what were they doing right that other hospitals might be missing? And it all came down to this list of what we now call our retention best practices. And we'll take a closer look at each of these in just a minute, but essentially the key factors of healthy retention are capturing their email addresses every time, using and promoting a reminder platform, practicing forward booking, having and promoting an online pharmacy, prioritizing existing clients when booking appointments, offering accessible payment options, and marketing add-ons services strategically. So now let's do a deep dive into each of these. First up, we have capture their email addresses every time. At least 70% of your clients should have an active email address tied to your practice management system. But you really should be aiming for a capture rate of 100% to maximize your client communication efforts. Really, what it comes down to is making sure that the front office staff is gathering this information when the client schedules their first visit with you. And we know that right now things are really busy, really hectic, really crazy. It's tough to make sure that that's being followed up on. So that's why we say at least 70%. But in an ideal world, this number would be 100%. We want as many emails as we can get, especially as many working emails as we can get. I really can't stress the importance of this enough because accurate email addresses are the cornerstone of your retention efforts. Because active email addresses means automated reminders are being sent to the right place. And it also means that you can use email as a way to communicate with your clients about the services you're looking to elevate or promote, and just things that are happening within the practice. I mean, think about how many times you've needed to send out a quick email blast with updates on your COVID protocols in the last couple of years. And now think about your email capture rate. How many of your clients, your active clients, actually got that communication and know what's going on inside your practice? So today, check your email capture rate in your PIMS. And if it's above 70%, you get a gold star and maybe some motivation to work towards that 100% caption rate I mentioned earlier. And if it's below 70%, now you know what you need to work on going forward. The next piece here is using and promoting a reminder platform. At this point, reminder platforms are somewhat of a staple in our industry, so you most likely already have one. If you don't, I strongly urge you to consider implementing one. Clients appreciate how easy it is to use an app or online booking service. It's something that they like so much that they actually go looking for it when choosing a vet. So again, when you're looking at a client that either could be a potential new client or maybe an at-risk existing client, these are the kinds of things that they're looking for that are that tipping point as far as their decision goes. Reminder platforms have also been proven to increase compliance and decrease no-shows and lost clients. So if you're a practice that is so busy that you can't fit in new clients, but then you end up with gaps in the schedule because of no-shows and last-minute cancellations, this could really help you. And then some reminder platforms also offer two-way texting, which can help reduce call volume, which is another thing I know that a lot of you are struggling with. So if you already have a reminder platform in place, let's talk about what you should be doing with that platform to really maximize its ROI potential. And if you don't, take notes and go back to this later. Every reminder platform offers a variety of automated reminders and features that can be turned on, and the hospitals that see the best results generally have these key features in use. They are sending appointment confirmations, pre-appointment reminders, post-appointment follow-up emails, and past due reminders. Some are even leveraging postcard reminders, which may not necessarily be the right fit for everyone. You know, a postcard reminder won't go a very long way with the younger millennial Gen Z demographic, but if you're in a community with older clientele, it could be a good option for you. Hospitals with the best results are also using two-way texting for easy curbside check-in and check-out. Virtual records access is another big thing. Same with online appointment requests, again, going back to that accessibility component. And then there's also touchless pay, which is a newer one that's not listed here, but if you've got two-way texting enabled through your reminder platform, touchless pay is an option too, which can be really appealing for those curbside visits. For those of you that have a reminder platform or app already in place, great job, but let's also make sure that you're taking advantage of its full potential. So I've got some key benchmarks for you here for reminder platforms. I want you to go back to your team or your platform rep, whoever it is that you work with, to make changes to your reminder platform settings and find out if you've captured at least 70% of your client email addresses. And yes, this should be reflected in your PIMS, so you should be able to just check your practice management system for this particular piece of information. And then if you do have an app or an online portal that clients can access, you want to make sure that at least 50% of your clients are using that. And if they aren't, then that's something to work on. You know, start including call outs to your app and a reminder platform in the newsletters you send out, or include a section on your website's homepage that promotes it. Basically make sure that you're letting your clients know that this is something available to them. I would even go so far as to have an entire page on your site dedicated to your reminder platform and potentially your loyalty program, which we'll talk about in a moment. Because the thing is, it might feel like, you know, oh, we already let our clients know about this when we launched it, or, you know, we let them know last year. The thing is, number one, you're still getting new clients that don't know about it or aren't very well educated on it. And number two, how many times have you heard that people need to absorb information more than once before it really sinks in? If you've never heard that before, it's true, I promise. But basically, you want to keep reminding them that this is there for them. So I would encourage you to consider sending out at least quarterly communications to your clients with call outs to this particular accessibility feature that you have available to them. You know, hey, did you know that we have this app? Oh, you have it? Did you know that we also have a loyalty program? That kind of thing. You'll also want to check and make sure that you're actively using customized reminders, like the ones that I just mentioned on the previous slide, and then that you've opted into a loyalty program to maximize transaction value. So we're going to talk about that next. So for loyalty, in every industry, loyalty programs introduce a gamification element to the client experience that is surprisingly really rewarding to both your clients and your business. People love loyalty programs. I mean, I don't know about you, but I live for that 10th stamp that gets me a free coffee at my favorite coffee shop. But really, loyalty programs lead to better outcomes for both the hospital and the pet parent. They've been proven to boost client retention and lifetime value, and the result is a positive effect on revenue, client engagement, and overall clinic satisfaction. A good loyalty program is customizable to suit your hospital, so you can decide how quickly people can rack up points to exchange for rewards, and you can decide what those rewards are. You know, free nail trim, a free exam. We have hospitals that kind of run the gamut in terms of how generous their rewards program is. So that's the thing too. I think a lot of hospitals shy away from a loyalty or rewards program because they think, oh my gosh, I don't want to give away so much in free services, but you don't have to. I mean, there are rewards programs out there that allow you to choose exactly what rate at which they earn rewards. So you could say you get a point per dollar spent, or you could say you get a point per $5 spent, depending on how quickly you want people to be able to rack up those points and those rewards. And then also, like I said, you have the ability to customize what those rewards actually are too. So if you're not into giving away free services, you know, maybe it's you get a free bag of dog food when you reach a certain point number. I mean, the opportunities are pretty endless here. What this does though is it increases the number of return visits that clients make, and it also leads to higher transaction values. People are a lot more willing to add items to their invoice if they're getting rewards in exchange, or if they know that it's leading them ultimately to a discounted or free service in the future. In one case study by Pet Desk, a hospital saw a 35% revenue increase across all client transactions and a $122,000 increase in revenue from loyalty alone. But I know Pet Desk isn't the only provider out there, so I've got another one for you. Vet to Pet also did a case study on 200 practices that they worked with. And in that study, they found that clients rewarded in the first 12 months, so the first year that they were a client of the hospital, visited 5 times more the following year. And then on average, loyalty generated $100,000 in additional revenue for the practices that were part of this survey. So really the question isn't, should I have a reminder platform or a loyalty program? Because the answer to that is absolutely yes. The question really should be, now that I have this tool at my fingertips, am I really using it to the fullest? So now let's move on and talk a little bit about your favorite topic, online pharmacies. I've got an unpopular opinion to share with you today, which is that you've got to stop avoiding them. I am well aware that this general sentiment in our industry is that online pharmacies suck because they deliver very little return with very low margins, but the fact of the matter is that your clients want access to this service, and if you don't offer it to them, they're going to go look at Chewy or 1-800-PET-MEDS or those other online retailers out there. And another thing I think that you need to be thinking about is that this has actually become so important to pet owners that if they're on the fence about who their provider should be, they're going to choose the hospital that already has these conveniences in place. So today, I want you to change the way you think about this. Low margin is better than no margin. So change the way you talk about it with your clients. Instead of awkwardly bringing up the pharmacy or avoiding it altogether and burying it on a hidden page on your website or not even putting it up there at all, something like, when you're in the office with clients, practice the assumptive close. Try something like, I noticed that Buffy is past due on our heartworm and parasite prevention, so we'll get you set up with a refill subscription through our online pharmacy before you leave today. It really can be that easy. And then lastly, kind of going back to what I started to say earlier, change the way you display it. So instead of hiding it on a buried page on the website or refusing to list it on your site altogether, I want you to feature it somewhere prominently on your website, ideally in the primary navigation. A lot of our clients see a lot of success in adding their online pharmacy as a primary button call out in their primary navigation. So those main navigation pieces in the header of the site, home, about, contact, etc. They've got actual buttons like that stand out a little bit differently from the rest of them that say shop our online pharmacy with a call to action. And that works really well for them. And basically, I just want you to feature it somewhere very prominently to make it easy for clients to find it and to choose you over Chewy or Banfield or the vet down the street. Another thing to think about that's also high on our list for retention best practices is how you're prioritizing your existing clients. This can be pretty tough to balance with the demand coming from new clients, but it's still really, really important. One of the most common complaints actually that we've heard throughout the pandemic is that the existing clients feel that their doctor is inaccessible. They can never get in for an appointment in a timely manner. Fido was sick and had to be taken elsewhere because you couldn't fit him in, etc. So a few potentially helpful solutions to that we've seen work for our practices. Number one is you'll want to ensure that you're maintaining an existing client booking rate of 70% or higher. And the best way to validate that is through the use of call tracking, which is a tool that we use for our clients here at iVet360 to keep tabs on those statistics. We basically replicate their main phone number with a dummy phone number and use that phone number to track what's happening on those calls. And so we actually get insight into this person called, they wanted to schedule an appointment for Fluffy. Were they able to? Yes or no? And we want yes to be the case at least 70% of the time. You might also consider placing limitations on the number of new patient visits allowed at the hospital each day. I work with several practices that have implemented something like 2 new clients per day per doctor, and that's worked really well for them. And then along the same lines, there's still the issue of wellness visits and surgeries booking out, which leaves very little room for same-day sick visits or for even just for long-term clients to try to schedule a wellness exam. So for that, what you could consider is setting aside a certain number of daily appointments for existing patient visits only. This way you're making a little bit of space in the calendar for your loyal clients when they need you the most, but you're not necessarily saying absolutely not no to new clients. One practice that I work with decided to give this a try with the added caveat that these appointments can only be booked as early as 2 days in advance. And so far it's been working really well for them. But basically the way it works is they have, let's say 5 appointment slots per day dedicated to existing patients only. And those existing patients have to schedule that appointment no more than 48 hours in advance. That's what helps to kind of keep from those slots just filling up months out anyway, is having that little cap there. So that might be something worth trying for your practice. And then one last option would be to offer telemedicine as an option for follow-ups or other minor concerns. Telemed definitely did not take off at the start of the pandemic the way that we thought it would. I think largely due to the inconvenience on the practices side, but I did come across an interesting article recently that suggested that more than half of its survey respondents would use telemedicine if it were available to them. And so just something to think about. So the last item on our list in terms of basic retention best practices is offering accessible payment options. And what I mean by that is, are you clear with your clients and prospective clients about the fact that you accept alternate payment methods like care credit and that you take insurance? Right now, a lot of pet parents are in need of financial support when it comes to treatment for their pet. And these are the kinds of things that they're looking for when they're deciding who to take their pet to. And that's why this really needs to be highlighted somewhere on your website. So what we recommend is designing a high quality payment options page for your website that includes information on all of this stuff. It includes information on alternate payment options you accept, like Care Credit or Scratch Pay, maybe an online bill pay feature if that's something you're willing to integrate into the client experience. Would also have your recommended or preferred pet insurance companies, and then some helpful information on how to choose a provider. All right, let's move on now to client communications. So how do you market your practice without asking for new bookings? This is a dilemma that we have dealt with for what feels like the last year and a half. I cannot tell you how many of my clients say to me, Jess, I want to increase revenue, but it feels like it doesn't make sense to promote a certain service and then ask them to call to schedule an appointment when we're just going to turn around and tell them that we can't fit them in 3 weeks. So we've done a lot of brainstorming around this issue. You know, how do you generate positive revenue growth when your calendar is full? And the answer is to focus on services that can be added to a visit. So again, going back to the concept of the assumptive close, one way to approach this, that similar to what I mentioned earlier, is, you know, during the visit, you say something like, you mentioned Sparky's also been scratching more than usual, but I'm not seeing signs of fleas, and I know you keep up with prevention. He seems to have maybe some environmental allergies, so let's try a Cytopoint injection before you leave to see if that helps. You can also try offering incentives for add-on services, such as 10% off diagnostic lab work to get more buy-in on that type of thing. You know, you can think outside the box there. It doesn't have to be diagnostics. It could be, you know, any type of add-on that feels appropriate to you. And then educate your clients on and recommend non-core vaccines that can be added at pre-scheduled visits. So another favorite of mine is teaching clients to be on what I like to call wellness watch. Basically, if they have an appointment coming up, if your client has an appointment scheduled, get them thinking about the things that they should be bringing up during that visit. So is their pet itchier than normal? Have they been exhibiting any unusual behaviors? You know, are they whining and scratching their ear? Do they seem to have trouble hearing? Is there a weird lump somewhere that we need to look at? You know, basically teach them to be proactive so that when they come in for their visit that is already scheduled, they're primed to cover all the bases, which is more likely to result in better care for their pet and a higher invoice for you. This is the kind of education that can be done through email communications, just like targeted compliance emails, which is another thing that you can try. So with targeted compliance emails, you're honing in on a very specific subset of clients and trying to get them to take some kind of action. So for example, you might send an email to clients with dogs between the ages of 2 to 8 who don't have the lepto vaccine yet, and specifically talk to them about the benefits of that vaccine with the recommendation to add it to their next wellness visit, whatever that might be, whenever that might be. And then generally speaking, you can just shift the way you talk about bookings too. You know, rather than ending an email communication with the classic call today to book your pet's dental exam, you could say something more like, we're currently booking out months in advance. So if your pet is due for a visit, call sooner rather than later to schedule them for a future visit. Basically just being transparent with them about what booking is looking like at your hospital. I have plenty of practices that I work with that are booking out still weeks and in some cases even months in advance. And the best results we've seen have been when we've been transparent with their clientele about that and said, look, you know, here we are talking to you about the importance of dental health during dental health month, but our dental cleaning calendar is full. So if you call us now, we'll fit you in whenever we can. It might be a month or two from now, but we'll still honor the offer that we're giving to you at this time. So that's a great approach too. So that's been kind of our approach to marketing while our hospitals have been experiencing this high level of demand and staffing shortages. But we also totally understand that there's only so much that you can do with a skeleton crew. In our recent practice manager report, which surveyed 683 practice managers in 49 states, recruiting and hiring was cited as the #1 challenge facing practices. We do have HR and training support for hospitals that need additional help with recruitment, but from a marketing standpoint, there are a few things that you can do to stand out. The first is to create a compelling careers page on your website that sells potential hires on your practice and location. And actually, a recent study indicated that a strong employer brand leads to 50% more qualified candidates, which is kind of interesting. So that's a pretty good reason to give your careers page and maybe even your website a makeover. The second thing that you can do is take the time to write it right. So you'll want to post job ads that are transparent, inspiring, engaging, and intriguing. Whether we like it or not, we're kind of in a chapter right now that caters to the employee, not the other way around. So as far as your careers page goes, for one thing, it should exist. So if you don't have one at all, you'll want to start there. But in order to attract the right candidate, your careers page should also answer a few very important questions about your practice. So the first is, who are you? What's so special about your hospital, your culture, your team? What is it that makes you different from the hospital down the street or the corporate practice that's bribing them with a bloated salary? And part of that narrative is, why should they want to work with you? Like, what specifically do you have to offer them? Do you have a robust training program? Are you willing to mentor recent DVM graduates? Do you have exciting cutting edge equipment? What is it really that makes you stand out? And then along those same lines, how will you support them in achieving their goals? 10 years ago in an employer's market, this narrative was flipped. They were telling you why they were worth hiring, and that's still the case. But now it's really your turn to sell them on what's in it for them when they choose you. Is there room for advancement? Again, is there solid mentorship? Maybe even an ownership or partnership opportunity down the line? And what benefits can you offer them? So outside of salary, what is there that you can say they can get from working with you? Will there be a healthy work-life balance? Are you asking for weekend availability? How much PTO is offered? Do you pay for certain memberships? Is there a 401k? And so on and so forth. And then especially when it comes to hiring DVMs, because that's a position where relocation is a little bit more likely, you need to sell them on your physical location too. So where are you asking them to move to? Like, what's so great about it? Are there beaches? Is it a family-friendly community? What are the schools like? What do people like to do for fun in your town or city? How's the commute? What is it that people that live there value about it? And what is it that people that work with you on your team value about it? That's the kind of thing that you want to be sharing in these job ads. And then lastly, the obvious one, which is, which positions are you hiring for and how can they apply? Now, when you get down to the nitty-gritty of writing job ads, it's all about the detail. I can tell you right now that one area most hospitals fall short right now is just in the tone and overall quality of their job ads. And I get it. I think, part of the reason you're hiring is because you're painfully short-staffed, and the last thing that you feel you have time to do is write a super detailed job ad. But trust me, it pays off in the long run. So here's how to show them why you're the employer of choice in your area. You'll want to be sure that you have a great tagline or title that hooks them in. Include as much detail as possible in your ad using language that reflects your culture. So if your practice is sophisticated, professional, large scale, maybe you go with a more traditional tone, but maybe you're a smaller scale practice with a more fun, relaxed, family feel kind of culture, right? Make sure that that shows through your words. You'll want to place more focus on the benefits of working with you too. So things like why it's a great place to live, what's cool about your hospital and team in particular, but then also the actual benefits of working with you, like the 401k, medical coverage, and all that jazz. And if the salary that you're offering is competitive, you can include that. It's not really taboo anymore to do that. In fact, it's becoming pretty standard. I would say the one area where you may want to choose to omit it is if you are below market rate, or not able to offer what your local comps are offering, then you might exclude that information. But for the most part, it's pretty safe to include that now. And then the other big one is it really helps to include a list of your core values to attract candidates whose values align with yours. So actually tell them what is it that matters to you guys. Look at your mission statement, look at the values that you preach to your existing team. What do you want your new hire to be attracted to, and what do you also want them to reflect? And then, of course, this one's really big. You have to make sure that you include a friendly invitation to apply. Not just like click here to apply, but something fun and engaging and welcoming that actually intrigues them to take action. And then lastly, be sure to include an equal opportunity employer statement that goes a little bit beyond the basic, we are an equal opportunity employer. So instead, what I would encourage you to try is find a way to make sure that it's clear that you're genuine about that by explaining why you want a variety of candidates. So hopefully that helps with job ads going forward. One thing that I do want to make sure to mention is we actually, and I'll be talking about the recruitment toolkit a little bit later, but we actually have a recruiting toolkit that we put together partway through the year last year, I believe, and it's been really, really helpful for our practices and even for hospitals that don't work with us. We have a job ad creator that you can actually use to plug in the information about the role, and it kicks out a pretty high quality job ad for you. So you might be interested in taking a look at that. All right, so hopefully everything I've shared with you today so far has been helpful. Now we know that when demand for care starts to climb and staffing shortages continue, the reaction is not to put a full stop on your marketing efforts, and instead to shift our focus. So work on improving retention efforts, maximizing revenue that comes from existing clients, and promoting the practice well to potential new hires. That is what's going to help you achieve the desired result, which is fewer limitations on practice growth, increased revenue and ATC, and maximized appointment availability. And it really works. We know this works because we've worked with our own clients to optimize these best practices around retention and active client marketing. iVet360 clients saw significantly more growth than the industry in 2021. That's something we're really proud of. But most notably, transaction volume grew substantially in comparison to the industry because our clients were focused on optimizing their booking strategies and leveraging their reminder platforms. And I think it's worth pointing out that not all of our clients do absolutely everything that we recommend, but those that do see results that look even better than this. I mean, these are averages of all of our client data. We have some clients that are still, growing upwards of 15% new client growth. They still have upwards of 20% revenue growth, 15% transactional growth. It really just depends on how much effort you're willing to put into this side of things. But ultimately, what I'm showing you here is really the proof is in the data. So I want to close today's presentation with a quick thank you and share a few resources with you before I open it up for questions. For more pointers on improving your recruitment efforts, you can visit our website to download the recruiting toolkit at ivet360.com/recruitment. For more information on how your hospital stacks up against others with regard to retention, you can ask us about our retention scorecard. You can either reach out to me directly at jstrohm@ivet360.com. That's JSTROHM. or submit a contact form via our website and mention the scorecard. Also, if you're already a client, you can just reach out to your marketing manager and they'll help you out with that. And then lastly, if you haven't already, be sure to check out our previous webinars in this series. We did one on HR and training and one that was kind of focused more on finance and analytics. So we've got both of those replays available online. But that about does it. I want to make sure that I leave a couple minutes for questions if anybody does have any. So if you've got one, feel free to go ahead and pop it into the chat box, and I'll hang out here for probably just a few more minutes. So we do have one question here from Chris. How often to reach out to an existing client? I'm going to answer that two different ways. So as far as reaching out to an existing client, just kind of in general in terms of independent communication, I would say your automated reminders are going to help a ton with that. So if you've got a reminder platform in place, by having automated reminders set up, you're actually reaching out to an existing client pretty much whenever you need to be reaching out to them, because it syncs up with your system and it knows, all right, this person is due for wellness or they're past due for a vaccine, and it automatically communicates with them about that. But in terms of just kind of generally communicating with your existing clients as a practice, I would say usually best practice is to have some sort of communication, some sort of reach out every quarter. So that might be in the form of an actual promotion where you're sending out a newsletter that has an offer for them, or it could be something educational. That's fine too. But I think at least once a quarter, you want to be getting in front of them with email communications. And then the rest of it is just kind of your general marketing that happens organically that counts as reaching out to your existing clients. And what I mean by that is when you're engaging with them on social media, like I said, having the reminders in place, things like that help to keep those existing clients engaged. So hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, feel free to add another question or response in the chat. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and close it up. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you have any questions after the fact, feel free to reach out to us directly, either via our website or to your direct contact here at iVet360 if you're already a client. Hope you all have a great rest of your week.